The alarms rang across Earth's main space station as 3 damaged ships appeared on the edge of the solar system. Admiral Taeho Kim stood on the bridge of the orbital defense platform, watching the strange vessels limp toward them. The ships were unlike anything he had seen before. They looked more grown than built, with smooth curves that reminded him of seashells. "Sir, they're sending a message," said Lieutenant Haewon Choi from her station. "It's in broken standard Galactic, but I think they're asking for help." Taeho frowned. In the 20 years since humanity had joined the galactic community, they had learned to be careful about strangers. Most alien races saw humans as weak newcomers who had nothing to offer. Some were openly hostile, others just ignored them completely. "Put them through," he said. The main screen flickered, and a face appeared that made several crew members gasp. The being looked almost human, but its skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer like water. Large dark eyes dominated its face, and instead of hair, it had flowing tendrils that moved gently around its head. "Please," the being said in heavily accented standard. "We need help. We are dying." Taeho stepped forward. "I am Admiral Taeho, Kim of the Terran Defense Force. Who are you and what do you want?" "I am Nari of the Valari people. We come from the ocean world Aquanis. Our people are being hunted. We have nowhere else to go." The Admiral studied the alien's face. Despite the strange appearance, he could see genuine fear and desperation in those large eyes. "Why come to us? We're just a small power in the galaxy." Nari's tendrils drooped. "Because you are the only ones who might listen. The big powers, they ignore us. The middle powers, they fear the ones hunting us. But humans are said to be different. Some say you care about the weak." Lieutenant Choi looked up from her console. "Sir, their ships are in bad shape. Life support is failing on 2 of them." Taeho made a quick decision. "Dock them in Base 7, send medical teams, and get Captain Sojin Park down there. We need someone who speaks their language better than I do." 2 hours later, Taeho stood in the station's main meeting room with Captain Sojin Park and Dr. Hyunwoo Lee, the station's chief medical officer. Nari sat across from them, looking much healthier after the medical team had treated her injuries. "Tell us what happened," Sojin said gently. She had always been good with aliens, which was why Taeho had made her his chief diplomatic officer. Nari's large eyes filled with what looked like tears. "My people, we are peaceful. We have always been peaceful. We live in the deep oceans of our world, in cities of coral and kelp. We have no weapons, no armies. We never thought we would need them." "But someone attacked you?" Dr. Lee asked. "The Coalition," Nari said, and her voice shook. 5 species working together, all of them strong, all of them with great fleets of warships. They have been taking over worlds across the galaxy for 50 years. Usually they conquer and rule. But with us—" She paused, struggling with the words. "With us, they want to make us slaves. You see, my people, we have abilities. We can sense things others cannot. We can feel the movement of water, the flow of energy, the pulse of life itself. The Coalition has learned this, and they want to use us." Taeho leaned forward. "What kind of abilities?" Nari looked uncertain. "It is hard to explain in your language. We can feel the connections between all things. In our oceans, we use this to find food, to avoid danger, to speak across great distances without machines. The Coalition thinks this makes us valuable as tools." Sojin's face darkened. "Slaves." "Yes, they came to our world 3 months ago. Their leader, a Krath called General Vex, gave us a choice: submit to slavery or watch our people die. We tried to fight, but we have no weapons. We tried to hide, but their sensors found us. We tried to negotiate, but they do not listen to the weak." "So you ran," Dr. Lee said. "Some of us. I was chosen to find help while others tried to protect our remaining cities. But every race we asked turned us away. The big powers like the Hegemony and the Star Empire. They will not fight the Coalition over one small world. The middle powers fear Coalition revenge. The small powers like us, they have no strength to give." Nari looked directly at Taeho. "But then we heard about humans. How you sometimes fight for others even when there is no profit in it. How you saved the gentle folk from the pirates near Rigel. How you helped the Moss people when their son was dying. We thought, maybe. The room fell silent. Taeho felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He looked at his officers. Sojin's face showed compassion, but also worry. Dr. Lee looked thoughtful. How many of your people are left? Taeho asked. On our world? Perhaps 10 million, but the coalition grows stronger each day. Soon they will have the power to take our cities by force. And how many coalition ships? Nari's tendrils drooped again. Many. More than 100 warships. Some very large. Taeho felt his heart sink. Humanity's entire defense fleet had maybe 30 ships, and most of those were small patrol vessels. They had never fought a real war. Just pirates and raiders. I need to talk with my government, he said finally. Can your people hold out for a few days? We can try, but Admiral, please understand. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight. If you cannot help us, my people will either become slaves or die. After Nari left to rest, Taeho found himself alone with Sojin and Dr. Lee. We can't fight the coalition, he said quietly. They would crush us. Sojin nodded. But we can't just let them enslave an entire species either. The Valari seem harmless enough, Dr. Lee added. And those abilities Nari mentioned, they might be more important than she realizes. What do you mean? I've been scanning her biology while we talked. Her brain patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen. There's electrical activity that shouldn't be possible. If what she says about sensing connections is true, you think their abilities might be useful to us? Dr. Lee shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe we're just the only ones foolish enough to try, helping them. Taeho stood at the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 10 million beings waited to learn if they would live free, die fighting, or spend their lives as slaves. Send a message to Earth Command, he said finally. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention. What are you thinking? Sojin asked. I'm thinking that if we're going to be known as the race that helps the weak, we might as well live up to it, even if it kills us. As the communication went out to Earth, none of them knew that this decision would change the galaxy forever. They only knew that sometimes doing what was right mattered more than doing what was safe. Valari had called for humanity's protection. Now humanity had to decide if they were brave enough to answer that call. The emergency session of Earth Command lasted 18 hours. Admiral Taeho Kim stood before the Council of World Leaders, military commanders, and scientists, knowing that his next words would decide the fate of two species. The Valari partnership offers us technologies beyond our current understanding, he said. But more than that, it offers us the chance to prove that humanity stands for something more than just survival. General Bo Rayun, the youngest member of Earth Command's military council, spoke up. Admiral, you're asking us to go to war with the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. The coalition has over 100 warships. We have 30. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Dr. Hyunwoo Lee said from his seat at the science table. The preliminary tests show that Valari-enhanced ships can do things that seem impossible. Faster calculations, better sensors, even limited precognition. President Jae-min Han, Earth civilian leader, leaned forward. Even if that's true, we're still talking about risking the safety of our entire planet for a species we barely know. Admiral Kim had expected this resistance. President Han, may I remind you of our first contact protocols? We committed to protecting species unable to protect themselves. From pirates and raiders, not from galactic superpowers. The debate continued for hours, but Kim could see the tide turning when Captain Sojin Park presented the moral argument. If we turn away from the Valari now, what does that say about humanity? She asked. Every species in the galaxy is watching to see what the humans will do. If we abandon the Valari to slavery, who will ever trust us again? In the end, the vote was close. 7 in favor of the alliance, 5 against. It was enough. Within 48 hours, the first joint human-Valari expedition was ready to launch. Commander Bo Rayun had volunteered to lead the mission to Aquanis, despite the huge risks. Her ship, the Harmony, had been modified with Valari, bioprocessors that made its computers faster and more intuitive than any human ship before. Nari served as the expedition's guide and translator. She floated in a special command tank that let her communicate directly with the ship's enhanced systems. The other Valari survivors were distributed across the human fleet, sharing their knowledge and abilities. "Remember," Admiral Kim told Commander Yoon before they departed, "this is officially a rescue mission. We're evacuating civilians, not starting a war. And if the coalition tries to stop us," Yoon asked, "then we defend ourselves, but we don't provoke them." The jump to Aquanis took 3 days instead of the usual 2 weeks. The Valari enhanced navigation computers could calculate hyperspace routes that human ships had never been able to use. When they arrived at the edge of the Aquanis system, what they saw made everyone's heart sink. Coalition ships filled the space around the beautiful blue-green world. Massive battle cruisers hung in orbit like metal vultures. Smaller ships moved in patrol patterns, watching for any sign of resistance. 67 ships, reported Lieutenant Min-Ho Kang from the sensor station. 3 of them are dreadnoughts. Commander Yoon studied the tactical display. The coalition fleet was positioned to prevent any escape from the planet's surface. It was a siege formation, designed to slowly strangle the world below. "Nari, can you contact your people on the planet?" Yoon asked. The Valari closed her large eyes and placed her hands on the bio-interface panels. For several minutes she was completely still. When she spoke, her voice was filled with pain. "They are hiding in the deep ocean trenches. The coalition is using sonic depth charges to force them to the surface. Many have already been captured. The cities are dying. How many are still free? Perhaps 500,000. But they cannot hold out much longer." Yoon made a quick decision. "Signal the fleet, we're going in." "Commander, that's suicide," Lieutenant Kang protested. "They outnumber us 20 to 1. "Maybe. But we didn't come all this way to watch from a distance." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the far side of Aquanis, using the planet itself to hide their approach. It was a dangerous move that required precise timing and perfect coordination. That's when the first miracle happened. As the ships moved into position, their Valari partners began to share sensory data through the bioprocessors. Suddenly, every human ship could feel the locations of coalition vessels even when they were hidden behind the planet. The sensation was strange and wonderful, like having a sixth sense. Pilot Dae-hyun Shin was the first to experience combat, with Valari enhancement. His fighter's computer, merged with Valari bioprocessors, began showing him things that shouldn't have been possible. He could see where enemy ships would be before they got there. He could feel the intentions of coalition pilots before they acted on them. "This is incredible," he reported over the comm. "I can sense their attack patterns before they form them." The rescue operation began at dawn on Aquanis. Human shuttles, guided by Valari senses, found the hidden refugee camps in the ocean depths. The coalition had expected any rescue attempt to come from orbit, not from underwater. For 6 hours, the evacuation proceeded without detection. Hundreds of thousands of Valari civilians were pulled from their hiding places and loaded onto human ships. The bioprocessors allowed perfect coordination between species, with Valari guides directing human pilots through underwater caverns no human had ever seen. Then coalition sensors detected the rescue ships. The battle that followed became legend throughout the galaxy. Human ships, enhanced with Valari abilities, moved through space in ways that defied physics. They seemed to know where enemy weapons would fire before the coalition ships had even targeted them. Commander Yoon's ship, the Harmony, faced off against a coalition battlecruiser 3 times its size. The massive enemy ship fired its main guns at point-blank range, but the Harmony had already moved to where it needed to be. The shots passed harmlessly through space, while the Harmony's weapons struck the battlecruiser's weak points with impossible precision. Pilot Shin's fighter squadron performed even more incredible feats. Flying with Valari-enhanced reflexes, they weaved through enemy formations like schools of fish, always staying one step ahead of danger. When Shin's weapons fired, they seemed to bend space itself, striking targets from angles that geometry said were impossible. The most amazing moment came when a coalition dreadnought tried to ram the refugee ships. Elder June, working with Dr. Lee aboard the command vessel, somehow made the massive human transport ship phase through the attacking dreadnought like a ghost passing through a wall. "How did we do that?" Dr. Lee gasped. "The deep current flows around all obstacles," Elder June explained calmly. "We simply flowed with it." By the end of the battle, half the coalition fleet was disabled or destroyed, and the humans had rescued over 800,000 Valari civilians. Not a single human or Valari ship had been lost. General Vex himself arrived just as the human fleet was preparing to leave. His massive command ship, the Dominator, dropped out of hyperspace with reinforcements. "Human vessels," his voice boomed across all frequencies. "You are interfering with coalition justice. Surrender the Valari, and we will allow you to leave." "Commander," Yoon opened a channel to respond. Behind her, the rescued Valari civilians looked out through the ship's viewports at their homeworld, many seeing it for the last time. "General Vex," she said calmly, "we are protecting innocent civilians from slavery. If that interferes with your justice, then your justice is wrong. You cannot fight the coalition and win, human. We are too strong." "Maybe," Yoon replied. "But we're not alone." As if to prove her point, the combined human Valari fleet moved as one toward the hyperspace jump point. The enhanced ships moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism with many parts. Vex's reinforcement fleet moved to intercept them, but it was too late. The Allied ships jumped to hyperspace with timing so perfect it seemed choreographed. They escaped. Nari floated in her command tank, tears streaming down her face. She had seen her homeworld for the last time, but her people were free. "What happens now?" she asked Commander Yoon. "Now we find you a new home," Yoon replied. "And we teach the galaxy that some things are more important than power." Behind them, General Vex stared at the empty space where the impossible had just happened. A minor species with outdated ships had just defeated the Coalition's finest. Worse, they had done it while saving lives instead of taking them. For the first time in his career, the general felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The AudioBook alliance between humanity and the Valari had been tested in battle and proven strong. But both species knew this was just the beginning. The Coalition would not forget this defeat, and next time they would be ready. The question was, would the Allies be ready too? Dr. Hyunwoo Lee had been studying the Valari for 3 days, and each test result surprised him more than the last. He stood in his laboratory, staring at readings that seemed impossible. The neural patterns on his screen looked like nothing he had ever seen in 20 years of studying alien biology. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the scan again. Nari floated in a special tank filled with salt water, breathing easily through gills on her neck. She had agreed to the test to help humanity understand her people better. Her large eyes watched Dr. Lee with curious patience. "Is something wrong with my body?" she asked through the waterproof communicator. "Wrong? No, nothing's wrong. But these readings..." Dr. Lee showed her the screen. "Your brain is generating quantum field fluctuations. That should be impossible for biological tissue." Nari tilted her head, sending ripples through the water. "I do not understand these words. Quantum? What is quantum?" Dr. Lee sat down, trying to think of simple words. "Everything in the universe is made of tiny pieces called atoms. Quantum means the rules that control how these tiny pieces behave. Your brain seems to be able to touch and change these rules." "Oh," Nari said, "you mean the deep current?" "The what?" "The deep current. It flows through all things, connecting everything to everything else. All Valari can feel it, but some are better at touching it than others." Dr. Lee's hands shook as he wrote notes. This was bigger than he had imagined. "Nari, when you say, you can touch this current, what exactly can you do?" Nari was quiet for a moment. "Many things. I can feel where fish swim in the ocean without seeing them. I can sense when storms come before the weather changes. I can speak to other Valari across great distances without using machines. Sometimes if I try very hard, I can even feel what will happen before it happens. You can see the future. Not see. Feel. Like sensing a current in water before it reaches you. Dr. Lee's mind raced. If the Valari could manipulate quantum fields, naturally the possibilities were endless. Faster communication, better computers, even limited precognition. No wonder the Coalition wanted to enslave them. A knock on the lab door interrupted his thoughts. Engineer Haewon Choi entered, looking excited. "Doctor, you need to see this," she said, holding up a small device. "I've been working with the water samples from the Valari medical exams." "What about them?" Haewon connected the device to Dr. Lee's computer. "Remember how Nari's people secrete a special fluid through their skin? I thought it was just for staying moist out of water, but when I tested it on our computer circuits, the screen lit up with incredible data streams, processing speeds that were 10 times faster than normal, error correction that was nearly perfect. Complex calculations that would take human computers hours were finished in seconds. The Valari biofluid acts like a living processor," Haewon continued. "It doesn't just conduct electricity, it seems to think." Dr. Lee stared at the results. "This is impossible. Organic compounds can't process data like this." Nari swam closer to the edge of her tank. "What are you both so excited about?" "Your body fluids," Dr. Lee said. "They're enhancing our computers in ways we never thought possible." Nari looked confused. "Our skin water helps your thinking machines. We always knew it was good for healing small wounds and cleaning things, but we never thought it had value to other species." "Value?" Haewon laughed. "This could change everything. Ships with Valari-enhanced computers could calculate jump coordinates in seconds instead of hours. Weapons could predict enemy movements. Communications could work across impossible distances." A new voice came from the lab entrance. "And that's exactly why the Coalition wants them." They turned to see Captain So-Jin Park entering with Admiral Tae-ho Kim. Both looked serious. "We just got word from Earth Command," Admiral Kim said. "The government is split. Half want to help the Valari, half think it's too dangerous." "What did you tell them about the test results?" Dr. Lee asked. "Nothing, yet. But they're sending a full science team to study the Valari more carefully." Nari's tendrils drooped in her tank. "They want to use us too, don't they? Just like the Coalition." Captain Park stepped closer to the tank. "Not use you, Nari. Work with you. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Your people seem very excited about what our bodies can do for your machines." The room fell silent. Dr. Lee realized how their conversation must have sounded to Nari. They had been talking about the Valari like they were resources to be exploited, not people to be helped. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, we got caught up in the science and forgot that you're a person, not a tool." Admiral Kim pulled up a chair. "Nari, let me be honest with you. Earth Command is having trouble justifying a war with the Coalition just to help your people. They need a reason that benefits humanity too." "So you want to make a trade?" Nari asked. "Our abilities for your protection?" "More than a trade," Captain Park said. "A partnership. Your people's gifts combined with human technology could make both our species stronger, strong enough to stand up to the Coalition." Nari was quiet for a long time, floating in her tank, and thinking. Finally, she spoke. "I must talk to the other Valari first. This decision is too big for me alone." 2 hours later, they gathered in the station's main communication room. The 3 Valari ships had linked their communication systems, creating a network that let all the survivors talk together. When Nari spoke to her people, her voice carried across all 3 ships instantly, without any delay. The conversation was in the Valari language, which sounded like singing mixed with the sound of ocean waves. Dr. Lee had learned enough to follow some of it, but the emotional undertones were beyond his understanding. After what felt like hours, Nari turned back to the humans. "We have decided," she said. "But first you must understand something. The abilities you find so interesting are not just tools to us. They are part of who we are. They connect us to each other and to the universe itself. If we share them with you, we are sharing our souls." Admiral Kim nodded. "We understand the importance of what you're offering. Do you?" If we become partners, you will not just get our abilities. You will become connected to the deep current, yourselves. You will feel things you have never felt before. You will know things you never thought possible. But you will also take on responsibilities you cannot imagine. What kind of responsibilities? Captain Park asked. Nari's large eyes seemed to look through them. Once you touch the deep current, you cannot ignore the suffering of others. You cannot turn away from those who need help. You will feel their pain as if it were your own. Is humanity ready for that burden? The humans looked at each other. They had been thinking about gaining power, not taking on new responsibilities. There's something else, Nari continued. The Coalition has been trying to force Valari to use their abilities for war, but the deep current cannot be used to harm innocent life. It fights back against those who try. That is why the Coalition wants to break our spirits first, to make us tools that cannot resist. But if we work together willingly, Dr. Lee began, then the current will flow freely. Your machines will become more than just metal and circuits. Your ships will move like living things. Your weapons will strike only those who truly deserve it. And your people will never again be able to ignore suffering wherever they find it. Elder June, the oldest of the Valari survivors, spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and carried the weight of years. We have watched humanity for some time, he said. You are young, but you have something most species lose as they grow powerful. You still care about the weak. You still fight for others even when there is no profit in it. This is why we believe you can handle the deep current without being corrupted by it. Admiral Kim stood up. If we accept this partnership, what happens to your people still trapped on Aquanis? Then we save them together, Elder June said simply. With human courage and Valari gifts combined, even the Coalition can be defeated. The Admiral looked around the room at his people, then back at the Valari. Then we have a deal, he said. But we do this as equals, not as users and tools. Nari smiled. The first time any human had seen a Valari smile. It was beautiful. Good, she said. Because the Coalition fleet is already moving toward Aquanis. We have perhaps 10 days before they begin their final assault. As the meeting ended, none of them fully understood what they had just agreed to. They only knew that two species had just joined their fates together, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of humanity's victory at Aquanis spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major power knew that the Coalition had been defeated by a species they had barely considered worth noticing. General Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching intelligence reports flood in. His scaled face showed no emotion, but inside, rage burned like a star. The defeat at Aquanis had not just cost him ships and soldiers, it had cost him something far more valuable: fear. For 50 years, the Coalition had ruled through intimidation. Species surrendered rather than fight because they knew resistance was hopeless. Now a small alliance had proven that the Coalition could be beaten. If word spread too far, rebellion would follow. How many ships do we have available for immediate deployment? He asked his aide, a thin Mokari named Zek. 230, General. But the High Council is reluctant to commit the entire fleet to hunting down one small alliance. Vex's claws scraped against the metal railing. This is not about one small alliance. This is about maintaining order. If we allow humans and their pets to escape punishment, every species in the galaxy will think they can defy us. On Earth, the celebration was more subdued. Admiral Tae-ho Kim stood in the command center reading reports from across human space. The victory had been amazing, but it had also painted a target on humanity's back. Intelligence reports suggest the Coalition is massing a major fleet, reported Captain Sojin Park. They're calling it a pacification force, but the numbers suggest something much larger. Dr. Min-ho Kang looked up from his research station. Admiral, we need more time. The Valari partnership is giving us incredible advances in technology, but we're still learning how it all works. How much time do you need? Months, maybe years, to fully understand what we're dealing with. These quantum field manipulations, they're rewriting everything we thought we knew about physics. Admiral Kim studied the tactical displays showing Coalition fleet movements. We might not have months. Intelligence suggests they could be here within weeks. In the refugee camps that had been set up on Luna and Mars, the Valari survivors worked alongside human scientists and engineers. The partnership was producing results that amazed everyone involved. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee watched as engineer Hae-won Choi demonstrated the latest breakthrough. A standard human fighter enhanced with Valari bioprocessors had just performed maneuvers that should have torn it apart. The inertial dampening is perfect, Hae-won explained. The bioprocessors don't just calculate the best flight path, they actually adjust local physics to make impossible moves possible. Elder June floated in a nearby tank, his ancient eyes watching the tests with satisfaction. Your people learn quickly, Dr. Lee. Soon, your ships will move like living things. But will it be enough? Lee asked. The Coalition has hundreds of ships. Numbers matter less than you think. Quality of connection is more important than quantity of weapons. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other species watched the developments with growing interest. In the crystal cities of Zirion Prime, the Crystalline Parliament debated whether to contact the human Valari alliance. On the Forge worlds of Metalon, the Iron Clans wondered if these newcomers might be strong enough to protect smaller species from Coalition aggression. Most significant was the reaction on Verdania, homeworld of the plant-like botanists. Their leader, Sage Willow, called an emergency council meeting. The humans protected the Valari for no gain, she said to the assembled representatives. When did we last see such behavior from a spacefaring species? The humans are weak, argued Wargrove Thorn. They cannot protect us from the Coalition any better than we can protect ourselves. Perhaps not alone, Willow replied, but together. Many weak species united might be stronger than one powerful alliance divided by conquest. The first test of this theory came sooner than anyone expected. The Coalition Advance Fleet, led by General Vex himself, arrived at the edge of the Sol system with over 100 warships. It was the largest military force ever assembled against humanity. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship, the Unity. The ship was a marvel of human Valari engineering, its bio-enhanced systems allowing it to respond to his thoughts as quickly as his own body. Coalition fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the system edge, reported Commander Bo Rayun from her position at the tactical station. They're not trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them, Kim replied. Psychological warfare. They think the sight of their fleet will make us surrender. Nari floated in her command tank near the bridge center, her consciousness merged with the ship's enhanced sensors. I can feel their intentions, Admiral. They plan to destroy our ships and capture any survivors. General Vex wants to make an example of us. How long until they reach Earth? 6 hours at their current speed. Kim opened a channel to all human and Valari ships. This is Admiral Kim to all vessels. Today we fight not just for our survival, but for the principle that the strong should not prey upon the weak. Remember what we've learned. Trust in your partners, trust in your enhanced systems, and trust in each other. The battle began in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Coalition fleet, confident in their overwhelming numbers, advanced in a traditional formation designed to crush enemy resistance through sheer firepower. What they encountered instead was something no military academy had prepared them for. The human Valari ships moved like they were alive. They anticipated enemy fire and were already moving before the Coalition ships had even targeted them. Their weapons seemed to bend space itself, striking from impossible angles. Captain Yujin Song commanded the destroyer Friendship, one of the most advanced human Valari hybrids. Her Valari partner, a young navigator named Kef, had merged his consciousness so completely with the ship's systems that the vessel responded to his thoughts faster than human reflexes could follow. Coalition cruiser, bearing Mark 7, Song, called out. Before she finished speaking, Kef had already guided their weapons to target the enemy ship's weak points. The cruiser's shields collapsed under precisely targeted fire that seemed to know exactly where to strike. Pilot Dae-hyun Shin led a squadron of enhanced fighters against Coalition heavy destroyers. His ships moved through the enemy formation, like ghosts, phasing in and out of normal space as their bioprocessors manipulated local reality. How are they doing that? General Vex demanded, watching his carefully planned battle turn into chaos. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. Their ships are violating several laws of physics. Laws can be broken. Order the dreadnoughts forward. Crush them with overwhelming firepower. The 3 coalition dreadnoughts, each one larger than most human ships combined, moved toward Earth with weapons charging. Their massive main guns could crack a planet's crust. That's when the impossible happened. Elder June, working with Dr. Minho Kang aboard the Unity, reached deep into the quantum field that connected all things. For a moment, the 3 dreadnoughts simply stopped existing in normal space. They reappeared seconds later, but now they were facing away from Earth, their weapons targeting empty space. The crews inside had no idea what had happened. Did we just teleport 3 dreadnoughts? Dr. Kang asked in amazement. The deep current flows everywhere, Elder June replied calmly. We simply convinced it to flow around them instead of through them. The battle that followed lasted 8 hours and became known throughout the galaxy as the Miracle of Saul. When it ended, the Coalition fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind 30 destroyed vessels and countless damaged ships. The human Valari Alliance had not lost a single ship. As the news of the victory spread, something unprecedented happened across the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of the Coalition for generations began to hope. Messages started arriving at Earth from dozens of worlds, asking the same question: could they join the Alliance too? On the Dominator, retreating toward Coalition space, General Vex stared at the tactical reports with growing unease. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet, they had done it while barely taking any damage themselves. Sir, his aide Zek said quietly, we're receiving reports from across Coalition space. 7 member species are requesting meetings to discuss policy changes. Vex's claws extended. Rebellion? Not yet, sir. But they're asking questions about the necessity of continuing the war. For the first time in his military career, General Vex began to wonder if the Coalition's reign of terror might be coming to an end. The humans had done something he thought impossible. They had made resistance look easy. On Earth, Admiral Kim stood in the Unity's observation deck watching the stars. The victory had been complete, but he knew it was only the beginning. The Coalition would return with an even larger fleet, but next time they wouldn't be facing just humans and Valari. If the messages flooding in from across the galaxy were any indication, they would be facing something the galaxy had never seen before: an alliance built on protection instead of conquest. The age of Coalition dominance was ending. The age of the Free Worlds Alliance was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Saul, the galaxy looked very different. What had started as a desperate plea from one dying species had become a revolution that shook the foundations of galactic power. Admiral Tae-ho Kim, now promoted to Grand Admiral of the Free Worlds Alliance, stood in the council chamber of the massive new station that orbited Earth. Representatives from 47 different species filled the chamber, each one seeking protection and partnership rather than conquest and domination. The transformation had been incredible to watch. The crystalline Parliament of Xerion had been the first to join, bringing their advanced shield technology to the Alliance. The Iron Clans of Metalon followed, offering their legendary shipbuilding skills. Within weeks, the botanists of Verdania had signed on, contributing their biological enhancement techniques. But it was the smaller species that made Kim's heart swell with pride. The gentlefolk, whom humanity had saved from pirates years ago, brought their gift for healing. The Moss people offered their ability to grow food in any environment. Dozens of species that the Coalition had ignored or oppressed found their voices for the first time. The Galaxy Senate refuses to recognize our authority, reported Captain So-Jin Park, now serving as the Alliance's chief diplomat. They claim, we're an illegal organization that threatens galactic stability. Elder June floated in his permanent tank near the council table, his ancient wisdom guiding many of the Alliance's decisions. The Senate speaks for the old order, he said calmly. They fear what we represent because we prove their way was wrong. Dr. Minho Kang looked up from his latest research reports. The quantum field integrations are proceeding ahead of schedule. Our latest ships can operate in ways that seem magical to conventional physics. If the Coalition attacks again, they'll face an enemy unlike anything they've ever encountered. Through the great windows of the station, Kim could see the construction yards where the miracle was taking shape. Human engineering, enhanced by Valari quantum manipulation, powered by crystalline energy systems, and armored with ironclad metals. Ships that were grown as much as built, that responded to their crew's thoughts and moved like living creatures. The door to the council chamber opened, and Ambassador Nari entered with urgent news. She had become the Alliance's primary liaison, with species still under Coalition control, using her people's quantum communication abilities to coordinate resistance efforts across the galaxy. "Grand Admiral," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "We're receiving surrender requests from Coalition member worlds. The hegemony of Altair has formally withdrawn from the Coalition. The Phantom Lords of Umbra are requesting protection from Coalition retaliation." Kim felt a surge of hope but also concern. How is General Vex responding to these defections? Badly. He's declared martial law across Coalition space. Any species attempting to leave the Alliance is being labeled as traitors. But his own people are beginning to question his leadership. The revolution was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. The Coalition's reign of terror, which had seemed unbreakable just months ago, was crumbling as species after species realized they didn't have to live in fear anymore. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee entered the chamber with the latest refugees from Coalition space. These were Krath civilians, the same species as General Vex, who had fled when their leader's brutal crackdown had turned even his own people against him. "They're asking for asylum," Dr. Lee reported. "Many of them are families of soldiers who refused to follow Vex's orders to attack civilian populations." Kim studied the Krath refugees through the chamber's viewing screen. They looked exhausted and frightened, nothing like the proud warriors the Coalition had always portrayed them to be. Grant them asylum, he decided, and make sure their story gets told. The galaxy needs to know that even the Coalition's core species are rejecting their methods. The news from the refugee interviews was revealing. General Vex had lost the support of most Coalition military commanders when he ordered the bombardment of civilian targets on worlds trying to leave the Alliance. His once mighty fleet was deserting in large numbers, with entire squadrons defecting to join the Free Worlds Alliance. "He's desperate," Captain Park observed. "Desperate leaders make dangerous choices." As if summoned by her words, an emergency alert sounded throughout the station. Commander Bo Rayun's image appeared on the main screen, her face grim with urgent news. "Grand Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a massive hyperspace disturbance, heading toward Earth. The energy signature suggests it's bigger than anything we've ever seen." Kim felt ice in his stomach. "How big?" "Sir, if our readings are correct, it's not a fleet. It's a planet killer. Vex has activated the Coalition's ultimate weapon." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew about the Coalition's legendary superweapons, massive constructs capable of destroying entire worlds. They had never been used, serving instead as the ultimate threat that kept species in line. Elder June's tendrils drooped in his tank. "The deep current is screaming," he said quietly. "Something terrible approaches, something that goes against the natural order of life." Kim activated the Alliance emergency protocols. Within hours, every available ship was recalled to Saul system. The defense fleet that assembled was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Vessels from 47 different species, all working together with perfect coordination through quantum field integration. The weapon that emerged from hyperspace was a nightmare made real. It was larger than Earth's moon, a sphere of dark metal bristling with weapons that could crack continents. At its heart, sensors detected a gravity manipulation system capable of tearing apart planets. General Vex's face appeared on all communication channels, his scaled features twisted with rage and desperation. "People of the galaxy," he broadcast, "witness what happens to those who defy the natural order. The Coalition has maintained peace for 50 years through strength. These rebels would return us to chaos and war. I will not allow it." Grand Admiral Kim opened his own channel to respond. Behind him, representatives of 47 species stood united. General Vex, he said calmly, you speak of peace, but you brought slavery. You speak of order, but you created only fear. Look around you. Your own people abandon you. Your allies desert you. Even now, it's not too late to choose a different path. Vex's laugh was bitter. You offer me surrender, human. You command a fleet of primitives and outcasts. I control a weapon that can destroy worlds. Your choice is simple. Disband your alliance and return to your proper places, or watch Earth burn. The weapon began to charge. Energy readings climbed, toward levels that could indeed destroy a planet. Around Saul's system, the Alliance fleet moved into defensive positions, but everyone knew conventional weapons would be useless against such a massive construct. That's when the miracle began. Elder, June, working with quantum specialists from a dozen species, reached deeper into the deep current than any Valari had ever attempted. The other Alliance members contributed their own unique abilities: crystalline power amplification, botanist biological enhancement, iron clan structural reinforcement, and dozens of other gifts. What emerged was something beyond technology, beyond physics as anyone understood it. The Alliance fleet didn't just work together, they became something greater than the sum of their parts. Kim watched in amazement as his consciousness expanded beyond his individual ship to encompass the entire fleet. He could feel the thoughts and emotions of thousands of beings from dozens of species, all united in their determination to protect the innocent. The planet killer's weapon fired, a beam of energy that should have boiled Earth's oceans and cracked its crust. Instead, the beam struck what looked like empty space and simply stopped. The Alliance fleet had somehow created a barrier made of pure quantum force, turning the weapon's own power back on itself. But they didn't stop there. Guided by the deep current and powered by the combined will of free peoples everywhere, the Alliance reached out through space itself. On every coalition world and every coalition ship, the message was felt rather than heard. The age of fear is over. The time of freedom has begun. Across the galaxy, the remaining coalition forces simply stopped fighting, not because they were defeated, but because they finally understood what they were fighting against. They weren't facing an enemy. They were facing the future. General Vex, watching his ultimate weapon powerless against the Alliance's unity, finally understood what he had truly been fighting. Not rebels or criminals, but the natural evolution of galactic civilization toward something better. His final transmission was quiet, almost sad. I was wrong, he said. We were all wrong. We thought strength meant making others fear you. We never realized that true strength comes from making others trust you. The planet killer shut down its weapons and began broadcasting surrender codes. 1 year later, Kim stood in the same council chamber, but everything had changed. The free worlds. Alliance now included over 200 species. The old coalition had dissolved, its member worlds joining the Alliance or forming their own peaceful federations. General Vex himself served as a military advisor to the Alliance, his experience helping them understand how to defend against future threats without becoming tyrants themselves. The Quantum Institute reports another breakthrough.